welcome. Tonight, FCT High Court convicts EFCC Chairman Abdulrasheed Bawa for contempt of court, orders his committal to Kuje Correctional Centre. EFCC Chair, however, says the Commission has filed an appeal to challenge the judgment. Academic Staff Union of Universities kicks against half payments of salaries for the month of October, says the federal government is treating its members like casual workers. Gunmen suspected to be bandits kidnapped Catholic priest Reverend Father Abraham Kunet at Kachia local government area of Kaduna State.
On business news tonight, 4 million Nigerian farmers to benefit from UK government as it plans fresh $109 million investment fund to support climate-resilient agriculture in the country.
On sports news tonight, former FIFA President Sepp Blatter says the decision to award the 2022 World Cup finals to Qatar was a mistake.
From Abuja, Amnesty International asks authorities to quash the flogging sentence meted out to TikTokers in Kano. Describes decision to remand them in prison without trial as a brazen violation of fair trial rights.
And in international news from London, voting has begun in the United States in the midterm elections, which will determine who controls Congress, which is made up of the House of Representatives and the Senate.
We begin from the court, and it's not unusual for the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, and indeed its officers to file charges against suspected persons, especially those bordering on financial crimes. But today, the hunter is the hunted, as Justice Chizoba Orji of the Federal Capital Territory High Court convicted the EFCC chairman, Mr. Abdulrasheed Bawa, for contempt of court in relation to his agency's failure to comply with an earlier order of court. In a ruling, Justice Orji held that the chairman of the Anti-Graft Agency is in contempt of the order made on November 21st, 2018, directing the Commission to return the sum of 40 million naira and a Range Rover Sports to Air Vice Marshal Rufus Odrawo, a one-time director of operations at the Nigerian Air Force. She also ordered that he should be committed to the Kuje Correctional Centre for his disobedience and continued disobedience of the said order, further directing the Inspector General of Police to ensure that the order of court is executed. Our crew caught up with the EFCC boss at his agency's budget defence session at the National Assembly, and here's what he had to say.
Regarding the well, we have appealed against it already, so we will allow the natural course of the law to take its effect.
And now, ahead of the 2023 general elections, the Archbishop Metropolitan Primate of All Nigeria Anglican Communion, Most Reverend Henry Ndukuba, is asking Christians and Nigerians to participate in the upcoming election and vote in the right political office holders. He also asked Nigerians to vote for candidates that will free the country from the grip of slave masters and opportunists. He was speaking at the annual Divine Commonwealth Conference of the Anglican Communion in Abuja. The vice presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party and Delta State Governor Ifeanyi Okowa, who was also at the meeting, urged the church to pray for the country.
Members of the Anglican Communion from across Nigeria and beyond converge on the National Christian Center, Abuja, for the annual Divine Commonwealth Conference and to pray for Nigeria. The conference, which is also attended by the vice presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, is to discuss the state of the nation, the 2023 general elections, unity, and the role of Christians. The Anglican Primate, Most Reverend Henry Ndukuba, and the President of the Christian Association of Nigeria, Mr. Daniel Oko, urged Nigerians to obtain their permanent voter cards, as the desired peace the country yearns can only be gotten from choices made.
We desire the birth of a new Nigeria, where every citizen belongs and can contribute to the growth of the nation. Vote for integrity. the respect for the rights of every citizen.
All hands must be on deck to ensure that the process results in sustainable growth and good governance for our people. We are also at a time when every stakeholder in the future of this country must rise up to be counted and make their voices heard through prayers, intercession, supplications for our land.
Praise the Lord.
Governor Ifeanyi Okowa appeals to Nigerians to give peace a chance, as Nigeria will be greater. He wants the electorate to go out and vote for who will redeem the nation.
The church needs to be more prayerful. The church needs to give greater guidance that we must call truly and pray aright. For if we do not pray aright and pray amiss because of what we think in our hearts, maybe getting it wrong. It is well with this country, I believe it. This country yet again will rise up, and this nation will be peaceful again. This nation will have its economy grow again. This nation will go on the right direction again.
The Christian community hopes that Nigerians will heed these calls for peace and the unity of the country ahead of the 2023 general elections.
Meanwhile, a 1 million man march has been held in Abeokuta, the Ogun State capital, in support of the All Progressives Congress presidential candidate Bola Tinubu and the re-election of the Ogun State Governor Dapo Abiodun. The walk, which started at the Moshood Abiola Stadium in the state capital, saw party supporters walk across notable streets in the capital. Addressing the crowd at the NNPC junction, Governor Abiodun urged them to remain steadfast, united and resolute as preparations for the general elections gather momentum.
Party supporters in their thousands from the 20 local government areas of Ogun State participating in the 1 million man march for the All Progressives Congress, APC. The long walk, led by State Executive Council members and other candidates vying for elective posts, affords supporters, mostly the youth, the chance to show the size of their numerical strength for next year's general elections. And as expected, the procession causes a huge traffic gridlock for a while, as motorists contend with the surging crowd of supporters. One of the candidates contesting for the Senate says these party faithful have decided to drum up support for the presidential candidate Bola Ahmed Tinubu and the re-election of incumbent Ogun State Governor Dapo Abiodun.
Today, the people of Ogun State want to demonstrate symbolically our unflinching support for Asiwaju Bola Tinubu as president and for the election of President Dapo Abiodun for second term. It's not a case of whether these people are going to win. No, we have passed that. It's a case of the landslide victory, the nature of the victory. We want Asiwaju to win so significantly that he will have so much excess votes in Ogun State to minimize maybe some other states they may not perform as much as Ogun State.
Addressing supporters after the walk, the Ogun State governor reminded them on the task ahead of the polls.
I would like to appeal to all of you here, especially those of us who have registered but are yet to collect our PVCs, to please go and collect them. The PVCs are now ready and are available, but if you don't have them, you won't be able to cast your votes.
The occasion also afforded the governor an opportunity to unveil the APC candidates vying for different political positions across the state, even as the Ogun State APC says it's confident of emerging victorious in 2023.
And for the People's Democratic Party, the PDP, the Akwa Ibom State Governor Udom Emmanuel says he is still the chairman of the party's Presidential Campaign Council, contrary to reports in some section of the media that he has resigned. Governor Emmanuel made the clarification while speaking at the official flag-off of the governorship campaigns of the PDP in Uyo, the Akwa Ibom State capital.
10,000 capacity Uyo Stadium filled to the brim for the flag-off of the Akwa Ibom governorship campaign ahead of the 2023 election. First, songs of praise. And setting the tone for the colorful event, the DG of the Akwa Ibom Governorship Campaign Council told the gathering that the party is set to run a campaign devoid of acrimony for the 2023 governorship elections.
We shall not abuse anybody. We shall refer to no other political parties in our campaign. We may acknowledge the strength of our opponents, but shall never talk about their weaknesses. We shall deploy politeness and fairness as our watchword.
The symbolic presentation of the flag to Pastor Umo Eno as candidate of the party and Ekone Akenyi as his running mate. The PDP chairman describes Pastor Eno as a man of capacity and competence, one who will lead the state to greater heights and more consolidation.
He is coming with the Arise agenda. The man is ready. The man is ready. And he will surely unfold his agenda for Akwa Ibom.
Responding, the candidate expresses great desire to continue from where the present administration is handing over the baton of leadership. Before he speaks, he goes spiritual.
I want to assure you that the future you desire for yourselves and your children and your grandchildren is the future I am totally committed to working to make real. I can count on you to collectively make this future a reality when you go to the polls in March 2023.
The event rounded up with the Governor, Udom Emmanuel, and his team encouraging the duo of Pastor Eno and Senator Anekin not to fail the people if elected.
If you have a candidate that is preaching peace all over, progress, prosperity, continuity, will you go for the one that is talking violence? Will you want to go to the one that will bring back kidnapping?
The event will be remembered as a major beginning to the road to the governorship seat in the political life of the candidate and his running mate. And going by their promise, the contract is to make it a reference point in the Committee of States.
In part two, after the break, Amnesty International asks authorities to quash the flogging sentence meted out to TikTokers in Kano, describes decision to remand them in prison without trial as brazen violation of fair trial rights. That's in a moment. Please stay with us. Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television Lagos. Here's a reminder of our top stories. FCT High Court sentences EFCC Chairman Abdulrasheed Bauer for contempt of court, orders his committal to Kuje Correctional Center. EFCC Chair, however, says the Commission has filed an appeal to challenge the judgment. Academic Staff Union of Universities kick against half payments of salaries for the month of October, says federal government is treating its members like casual workers. Gunmen suspected to be bandits kidnapped Catholic priest Reverend Father Abraham Kunat in Kachia local government area of Kaduna State. And Americans vote in midterm elections to determine who gets into Congress and perhaps which party controls it. And to education, where the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, is alleging poor treatment from the federal government with the payment of half salaries for the month of October. At an emergency meeting of ASU's National Executive Committee on Monday, the 7th of November, the union deliberated on developments since the suspension of the strike. The union's National Executive Committee says paying academics like casual workers is unprecedented in the history of university-oriented labor relations and condemned the federal government's action. According to ASU, members suspended their 8-month strike October 14th in obedience to the order of the National Industrial Court and in further consideration of intervention efforts of well-meaning Nigerians. Meanwhile, the senior advocate of Nigeria, lead counsel to the Academic Staff Union of Universities, Mr. Femi Falana, has asked the federal government to stop provoking members of ASU in a dispute over wages. Mr. Falana said the lecturers should be paid their full salaries for months they were on strike. He argues that the lecturers still have to cover the work missed between February and October. Mr. Falana was speaking on Channels Television's political program, Politics Today.
The period of 8 months of the strike embarked upon by the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, is being factored into the amendment of the calendars of the public universities in a way that the lecture that the student missed are being covered now. The students are going to write their examinations at the end of the day. It is very crystal clear that the 2021-2022 academic session has not been cancelled. In other words, the lecturers are working. The lecturers are trying to cover the period that was lost. So the doctrine of no work, no pay is totally inapplicable. Secondly, the governments of Nigeria, the federal government and state government usually ignore that provision of the law in order to promote industrial harmony. In this particular instance, once a strike is legal, at the time that provision of the law was introduced by the colonial regime, strikes were illegal. Strikes were criminal offenses. It is a new regime now, under the current labor law regime in the country. Strikes are legal, and nobody has said that the strike of ASU was illegal. Having agreed that the strike is legal, the government usually overlook the provision of Section 43 of the Trade Disputes Act.
We head to Abuja for more stories now. Hi, Linda. Take it away.
Hello, Millicent. Good to see you. Human rights group Amnesty International has condemned the sentencing of TikTokers Mubarak Muhammad, also known as Unique Pekin, and Asivi Muhammad for allegedly defaming the governor of Kano State, Abdullahi Ganduje. The organization, in a statement by its director in Nigeria, Osai Ojiho, describes the decisions remand them in prison for a week without trial as a brazen violation of their fair trial rights, adding that satirizing those in authority is not a crime. The statement reads in part, Nigerian authorities must respect, protect, promote and fulfill the right of everyone to freedom of expression. The outrageous court order to flog and fine them is heavy-handed and clearly aimed at gagging young Nigerians and restricting their access to social media. The statement adds that the sentences are just the latest to be meted out by Nigeria's justice system and expose the authorities' complete disregard for freedom of expression. Now moving to security stories. A priest of the Catholic Church, Reverend Father Abraham Kunat, has been kidnapped by gunmen suspected to be bandits in Kachia local government area of Kaduna State. Although the police authorities are yet to confirm the development, the Chancellor of the Archdiocese of Kaduna, Reverend Father Christian Emmanuel, said in a statement that the victim, who is the parish priest of St. Bernard Catholic Church, Idongida, in Kachia local government, was kidnapped at St. Mulumba Kuminsara, also in Kachia local government, in the early hours of today. It is disclosed that the victim, Father Kunat, has been residing at the St. Mulumba parish all along due to insecurity in the area. The statement, however, solicits for the prayers and support of the Christian faithful, as well as all men and women of goodwill for the safe return of the priest. The latest kidnap incident is coming months after months of relative peace in Kaduna State, following ongoing military onslaughts against bandits in some parts of the state. The Nigerian army in Yola, the Adamawa state capital, has apprehended a 29-year-old suspect, Ahmed Mohammed, who specializes in extorting innocent Nigerians with a promise of recruiting them into the Nigerian army. Parading the suspect before the media at the Gibson Jalo Cantonment 23 Brigade of the Nigerian Army, Yola, the officer commanding 23 Provost Company says the suspect, who hails from Biu in Borno State, was arrested at Guyak town in southern Adamawa for impersonating a captain of the Nigerian Army.
I'm here today, being 8th of November 2022, to present to you Mr. Ahmed Mohammed of Biu town, Borno State, who was arrested at Guyuk for impersonating as a captain in the Nigerian Army. The suspect has been extorting money from the general public, promising to recruit them into the Nigerian Army. As at the time of his arrest, items recovered from him include military pullover and a tear gas. The suspect and the exhibit will be handed over to the appropriate security agency for further investigation and possible prosecution. Consequently, I wish to inform the general public that it is an offense to impersonate as a personnel of the Nigerian Army by virtue of Section 132 of the Penal Code. The general public are therefore advised to desist from patronizing such unscrupulous and unpatriotic persons to facilitate their recruitment to the Nigerian Army. Recruitment exercise into the Nigerian Army is free and nobody is required to make payment for it. Members of the public are further encouraged to report any case of recruitment racketeering to the nearest appropriate security agency for further action.
Still on security, the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, says it is committed to ridding the region of the menace of proliferation of firearms. ECOWAS Commissioner for Political Affairs, Peace and Security, Mr. Abdul Fattah Musa, stated this at a forum in Abuja. According to him, ECOWAS seeks to strengthen its regional arms control agreements by ensuring that member states abide by the Convention on Importation of Weapons.
Before we do that, given the situation in the continent today, in the sub-region, particularly the issue of terrorism, the issue of violent extremism and others, you cannot overemphasize the importance, to fight small arms. We deal with member states, the producers of small arms and light weapons, the consumers, that is our member states, and also the brokers, those middlemen and women who actually facilitate the illicit proliferation of small arms and light weapons. As you know, no major arms industry exists in West Africa, right? We have got artisanal production of weapons and others, but the whole place is awash, and we need to silence the guns. So this is why, we put the fight against small arms and light weapons at the very center of it. It is about bringing about awareness about the dangers posed by small arms and light weapons, and then the other related products, and also to mobilize Air Force in the region to combat for the destruction of the weapons, collection and destruction, and also preventing new weapons coming into the system. So this is just part of that campaign across the region, comprehensive, efforts to combat this menace.
Away from security stories, the Minister of Aviation, Senator Hadi Sirika, is assuring federal legislators that the federal government is working to ensure that the trapped funds of Emirates Airlines are paid as quickly as possible. He gave the assurance while appearing before the Senate Committee on Aviation to defend the ministry's 2023 budget proposal. Emirates Airlines recently suspended flight operations in and out of Nigeria again over its inability to repatriate $85 million from Nigeria.
When we came in 2016, we found out that about $460 million was blocked in Nigeria. And at that time, we were under recession. But because we are up to our own commitments, Mr. President directed, approved, and the monies were found and given to them, all of it, in 3 tranches. And the mechanism was asked to be put in place in such a way that the monies would not be trapped. And so we pleaded with all the airlines around the world that they should see the situation that Nigeria is in and to give us time to be able to repay this money like we did. We have demonstrated that we honor our obligations, and we did it in the past. Then we get these things from UAE that we are not coming to Nigeria, we will ban you from Nigeria, we will ban visa. They've done it once, they did it twice, they did it 3 times. These are things that are not self-inflicted. These are things that happen to our country. And as a sovereign, perhaps they should look a bit more, because this market, this Nigerian market, is a market that they need. We need their service, no doubt about that, but they need our market more.
Still ahead on the news at 10, 4 million Nigerian farmers to benefit as UK government plans fresh $109 million investment fund to support climate-resilient agriculture in the country. That's business news in a moment. Do join us again.
Now, many didn't raise eyebrows when billionaire businessman Elon Musk made his intentions known to buy microblogging site Twitter for $44 billion some months ago. However, weeks after successfully taking over the company, well, questions have surfaced as to the motive when you put the purchase side by side with the much smaller app Parler by American rapper Ye, formerly known as Kanye West. In our next report, our technology correspondent Victor Matthias takes a look at this latest trend of microblogging apps and ownership, and also content regulation.
Last year, former President of the United States Donald Trump was booted off Twitter following comments he made after results of the 2020 presidential election were being announced and it was clear he was losing. In Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari's tweets against pro-Biafra groups was deleted by Twitter after the platform deemed them in violation of its policies governing content. This led to the suspension of Twitter in Nigeria, with government instead opting for another site's coup, just like Mr. Trump did with Truth Social. American rapper Kanye West, now known as Ye, was also suspended from Twitter when anti-Semitic comments from him drew a backlash from different quarters. In what was described by him as a bid to democratize the microblogging site, billionaire businessman Elon Musk bought Twitter and has since begun his mission to make it, in his words, a platform for all.
The reason why even the purchase of Twitter by Elon Musk was even very, very important at the time, and the reason why he made that decision is because of a law called Section 230 that Donald Trump was trying to repeal. Now, this is a law that initially when it was written to protect companies like Twitter against content that their users are putting online. So Twitter somehow has like immunity.
Mr. Ye followed this example, albeit on a smaller scale, by buying social media app Parler. What he will be doing with it remains to be seen. However, the changes made by Elon Musk after taking over Twitter, including sacking the board and a significant number of staff and introducing a payment method for verified users, has drawn mixed reactions from techpreneurs.
I feel like Elon should take a bit of time to, stay in the organization a bit, understand some things from the inside before he starts to make such sweeping changes. Especially where it comes, what everybody has been talking about is this blue tick. It could work depending on how it's implemented.
We have heard of people who actually got themselves verified, who got the blue tick and were still, peddling things and were not actually, doing what they're supposed to do on Twitter. So the conversation around whether or not this is going to make it easy for anybody and anybody to be able to pass fake news is truly a major concern. But ultimately, in the grand scheme of things, all they need to do is to define another protocol for basically determining what is true and just democratize, which is what Elon is all about, this whole idea of the blue tick.
Moderation, censorship, and the need to draw the line between both also remains a topic that has been up for discussion, especially where it elicits unsavory consequences like the Capitol invasion and the stabbing of Salman Rushdie.
We need to clearly distinguish between moderation and censorship. Some actions actually lead to real-world consequences. So where does a social media platform step back and say, you know what, this is none of my business, say anything you want to say irrespective of how offensive it is, versus jump in and say, I think this is getting out of control. I don't think any platform could ever have that perfect balance.
Elon and the entire new management of Twitter are not saying that moderating is going to end. Neither are they saying that certain policies are going to be completely removed. Yeah. Essentially, what is still considered as, abusive language, abusive content is not going to change anytime soon within the frame of the reference that they're talking about. Yeah. And whenever you begin to put restrictions to that, you begin to have issues around what should really be the boundaries of each person's, expression.
To be a verified Twitter user, one must have an active account, must be a notable person, and must be authentic, and a request must be sent via the app. However, the new CEO says he is introducing an $8 monthly charge for the blue tick, but wasn't clear as to whether this charge will be for already verified users or users who are seeking verification. Twitter is said to have almost 400 million users worldwide, including Nigeria. How the debate surrounding free speech and content moderation pan out may in fact determine whether this number continues to rise and if platforms like this see the sole proprietorship model as the way to go. Victor Matthias, Channels Television News.
And from tech to an explosion where 4 persons lost their lives while 12 others sustained varying degrees of injuries today at the chemical market Bridgehead on Onitsha in Anambra State. Reports say the explosion, which happened around midday and led to an inferno in the market that destroyed goods and property of traders worth hundreds of millions of naira. Eyewitness reports said 4 deaths recorded, where as a result of stampede, as traders struggled to flee to safety. Confirming the incident, the Anambra State Police Command spokesperson, DSP Tochukwu Ikenga, said the casualty figure was yet to be ascertained because the Deputy Commissioner of Police in charge of operations had taken charge over the area and the fire service team was also on ground. In addition, policemen from the Fege Divisional Police Station have been drafted to the market for security of goods and property belonging to the traders. And now to some company news. MTN Foundation has unveiled 500 women entrepreneurs selected under its Yellowpreneur program. 150 of these women will also receive some business loans and grants. At a press briefing in Lagos today, MTN Foundation executives speak on the importance of the program, its effects on national development and economic growth.
Telecom giant MTN and its partners have brought together these women entrepreneurs to its head office in Lagos to intimate the media on its latest mission. But first, an update on the journey so far in MTN's quest to empower women.
Women constitute over 50% of the Nigerian population, but just 35% of us are involved in entrepreneurship in the form of micro, small and medium and large enterprises. In 2020, only 47% of working age women participated in the labor market compared to 74% of men, a gender gap that has remained relatively constant since 1995.
Established in 2004 as a CSR, MTN speaks on the importance of the initiative.
So the MTN Yellowpreneur initiative is an initiative of the MTN Foundation, and it's targeted at female entrepreneurs who have run their businesses for about 2 years. And what the initiative is all about is building their capacity and also being able to support them with funding.
Partners and collaborators shed more light on their involvement.
So we are bringing on the table experience garnered over 2 years as an institution. And so working with MTN and Panadol University, means that these three institutions are on their right, very strong corporate names. So for them to come together, the MTN providing funding, BOI providing structures to align that funding to would-be entrepreneurs, which are women, and of course Pan African University working with us to provide the capacity building.
With focus on the woman entrepreneur, some participants speak on the journey so far and the impact on their businesses.
There's a very serious capacity building going on presently, in the sense that we're taking through some courses, taking through some marketing, business courses, things to open up our knowledge to the world of business.
With over 24 billion naira already invested, touching lives in 2,919 communities with 1,002 projects, the MTN Foundation says it's on its path to impacting lives in the country, especially those who are willing to dare to do more.
Time for some business news now. Here's Anne Waldo. Thank you, Millicent. Hello and welcome to Business News. The UK government says that it will be providing £95 million, and that's about $109 million investment funds to help support climate-resilient agriculture in Nigeria. The new commitment was made known in an emailed statement released today, as the UK also announced that it has raised its climate adaptation budget to £1.5 billion by the year 2025. According to that statement, the program is targeting 4 million farmers, including 2 million women, to scale up sustainable farming practices like heat and flood-tolerant crop varieties and integrated soil fertility management. The funding is coming as the country is experiencing the worst flooding in a decade, which has damaged nearly 400,000 hectares of farmlands, claimed 612 lives, and displaced 1.4 million people. The Corporate Affairs Commission has refuted reports that it has licensed third parties to procure business registration or unregulated investment schemes for members of the public at a mega discount, with freebies including FIRS taxpayer identification number. In a statement released today, the CAC explains that these contents fraudulently use the Commission's name, logo, and crafty language in order to deceive unsuspecting members of the public into patronizing them. The Commission also clarified that the Federal Inland Revenue Service tax identification number is electronically generated and endorsed instantly on the certificates of relevant business entities upon registration on its portal at no cost, while its services and fees are published on its website at www.cac.gov.ng. Passenger demand for air travel increased by 57% year-on-year in the month of September, and that's according to latest report coming from the International Air Transport Association. In a statement made on its website, the 290-member Global Trade Association of Airlines says that air traffic around the world has also reached 73.8% of its pre-pandemic levels, which signifies general continuous recovery for traveling within the global aviation industry. IATA also further reveals that domestic air traffic indications also show that traveling within the country increased by 6.9%. Well, that's when you compare to the previous year, while the total domestic air traffic recorded in September reached 81% level in 2019. We head to the market now, where investors had some high-value stocks pushing up the NGX key index below 44,000 level as volume of shares traded today rose by more than 140%. Will Ibong has the details.
Welcome
Welcome to the stock market report. Now, stocks pivoted to negative territory after closing pretty much undecided in yesterday's trading session. That's it, the bear is back with 1.82% deep in the red. The market had the all-share index scampering away from the 44,000 level to the 43,000 level, and with over 700 billion naira knocked off the market cap. Now it's at the 23 trillion naira mark. Now, meanwhile, activity charts in the green, indicating immense sell pressure in today's trading session. Now let's take a look at the culprit, shall we? Here we go. Guinness, Dangote Cement, these two giants losing over 9% and 8% each, outweighed the 5% gain we saw in Gerrigou today. However, we did see Unity Bank and Thomas Wyatt on the top of the leaderboard, at least making some gains in today's trading session. Now, analysts did say we'll see flashes of bulls, but I think the bear appears to still take center stage. And that's the stock market report. And Will Ibang, it's back to you.
It's Business News Tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Anne Mwawadu. The rest of the news at 10 continues now with Millicent.
Thank you, Anne. And just one more political story before the international news. The Abia State government has warned the Labour Party in the state against what it calls its plans to disrupt academic activities at Ngwa High School, Aba, through its proposed political rally holding Thursday, November 10, 2022. The Commissioner for Post-Basic Education in the state, Mr. I.C. Mark, in a letter addressed to the state chairman of the Labour Party in which the Abia State Director of DSS and Abia State Commissioner of Police were copied, says the government strongly advises that the party seeks alternative venues to avoid disruption of academic activities in the school. Mr. Mark therefore asked the Labour Party to consider changing the venue of the event or seek another date when students will not be at school. Americans have been voting today in midterm elections to determine who gets into Congress and perhaps which party controls it. 435 seats in the House of Representatives are up for grabs, along with 34 in the Senate. Simon Pusey has more around the world in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Voting has begun in the United States in the midterm elections, which will determine who controls Congress, which is made up of the House of Representatives and the Senate. Currently, both are controlled by President Joe Biden's Democrats, and the Republicans are predicted to take the House. The battle to control the Senate is on a knife edge and too close to call. Losing either chamber would make the next 2 years very difficult for Joe Biden, as Republicans would attempt to block legislation. Leaders from African countries have criticized wealthy governments and oil companies for driving global warming to demand that they pay up for damages being inflicted on their economies.
In the last 50 years,
the Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda calling on oil companies to shell out some of their huge recent profits.
The oil and gas industry continues to earn almost $3 billion United States dollars daily in profits,
while leaders of African states demanded more international funds.
Our continent will need a predictable, appropriate, and at-scale funding stream and technological support. This must support our right to development, international equity and transmissions that are just and inclusive.
Rwanda, like the rest of Africa, is ready to prioritize renewable energy. We do this for our own future. The most valuable contribution that the developed countries can make is to reduce their emissions faster while investing with Africa to build sustainable green power.
The white supremacist who murdered 51 people at 2 mosques in New Zealand is appealing against his conviction. Court officials said Brenton Tarrant has filed an appeal against his case and sentence. Tarrant was jailed to life without parole in 2020 for the murder and attempted murder of Muslim worshippers. Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern said he was attempting to re-victimize people. A team of technical advisors from the Franco-Italian aircraft manufacturer ATR is on its way to Tanzania to investigate why one of its planes crashed into Lake Victoria. The passenger plane, operated by Precision Air, had 43 people on board. Despite frantic rescue attempts, at least 19 people died in the crash. Tanzanian authorities said investigations were underway and the findings would be made public. The country's transport minister said that the weather had abruptly changed as the plane approached the airport. Former FIFA president Sepp Blatter says the decision to award the 2022 World Cup to Qatar was a mistake. Blatter was president of World Football's governing body when Qatar was awarded the tournament in 2010. He told a Swiss newspaper it is too small of a country. Football and the World Cup are too big for it. The Gulf state has been criticised for its stance on its human rights record and treatment of migrant workers. It is the first World Cup to be hosted in the Middle East and takes place from the 20th of November to the 18th of December. And finally, giant rats wearing tiny high-tech backpacks are being trained in Tanzania for search and rescue operations. A Belgium-based company has already trained rats and dogs to detect landmines, as well as sniffing out outbreaks of tuberculosis. But because of their size and agility, rats could also be a valuable tool for existing search and rescue efforts. The rats are African giant pouched rats that have been trained to locate humans in a mock disaster zone, such as after an earthquake, and will eventually be fitted with a technology-enabled backpack to enable real-time wireless audio-visual communication from within the debris site.
The rats are just as trainable as dogs. They've got a great sense of smell, and their small size and natural agility should hopefully make them really good in this scenario where they could squeeze in small spaces and get closer to any victims.
And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel Studios in Lagos.
Well, many thanks, Simon. Welcome to Sports News. The World Wrestling Entertainment, that's the WWE, and its partners, MultiChoice, SuperSport and Showmax, have launched a multi-platform campaign at the search for Africa's next WWE superstar that targets lovers of wrestling who are 20 years and older and cutting across all genders. According to WWE Head of Talent Operations and Strategy, Mr. James Kimball, application will be received from across the continent, while successful applicants will enjoy an all-expense-paid trip to Lagos for the tryout in February 2023.
Is introducing something new in Africa for fans of WWE as it begins its search for Africa's next WWE superstar. This exciting campaign brings together officials of the WWE, including 2 of its superstars with Nigerian descent, Apollo Crews and Omos, partners from MultiChoice, SuperSport and Showmax, the media and lovers of the sport to the press briefing.
The search for Africa's next biggest WWE superstar. I think it's just going to set the tone in terms of the different types of projects we'd like to roll out going forward. It's very evident that SuperSport is embarking on a journey to try and be more active in the market, including Nigeria and different rest of Africa markets. As the biggest sports broadcaster in Africa.
WWE Head of Talent Operations and Strategy, James Kimball, explains the essence of the new multi-platform campaign.
Athletes selected from the Lagos tryout will automatically be put on the same journey and the same opportunity and the same evaluation process as any athlete, any talent that we recruit across the globe. I think that's an important note, and I want to make that clear. This is an opportunity that will put you on par with every athlete and every talent that we identify worldwide. Submissions should not contain physicality or any actions of violent nature. The submissions are really meant to highlight your personality and charisma, not necessarily your physical moves.
The prospects the campaign brings is exciting,
And MultiChoice Nigeria is proud to be part of the journey.
For the first time ever, WWE is in Lagos, and just to find the next big talent in the WWE, and I think it's very significant because we see what's been happening around our music, our fashion, our movies, and to see this sort of transformation also happening in Nigeria now with WWE coming here to find the next WWE superstar. I think it's a great thing.
Entry is now open and will run through to December the 18th. If you think you have what it takes to be Africa's next WWE superstar, the first step is to visit the website at www.supersport.com/WWE Africa Superstar and take it up from there. In football, UEFA has reiterated its opposition to the proposed Super League after meeting with advocates of the proposed competition. A European football's governing body said that the meeting was requested by A22 Sports Management, a group launched in mid-October. A22 confirmed that it is actively working with a number of leading football clubs to develop new concepts and ideas for the European club competitions. UEFA said that the participating football stakeholders once again unanimously rejected the rationale underpinning the project. And that's Sports News. I'm Ayotunde Balogun.
And the main news again. The FCT High Court today convicted EFCC Chairman Abdulrasheed Bawa for contempt of court and ordered his committal to Kuje Correctional Centre. The EFCC chair, however, told reporters after his agency's budget defence session at the National Assembly that the Commission has appealed the judgment. That's News at 10 tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Millicent Walker. Have a good night and stay safe.